We have a loaded Philadelphia Eagles Now rundown. Here's everything that's coming up on today's show. This new NFL rule could be huge for the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to go through our Eagles cuts tracker as Howie, Roseman, and this organization have made multiple roster moves as all teams across the NFL have to cut their rosters to 53 players by 4 p.m. Eastern today. And is the book out on quarterback Jalen Hurts? Stay tuned for all of that. I first want to say thank you to all of the real ones. We are closing in very quickly on 80,000 subscribers, and the show that we published last night on the channel picked up 214 new subscribers. On today's show, can we beat that number? I'm putting all of you to the test, and as you can see, 79,424 people worldwide are subscribed to us here on Eagles Now. And if you want shows on the birds every single day year-round, hit that sub button. This is your go-to destination right here on YouTube. Let's start off with story number one. This new NFL rule could be highly impactful for Philadelphia and other teams across the NFL. There are new IR rules this year that the league has implemented. So teams can designate up to 2 players to return by putting them on short-term IR. Those players do not count toward the 53-man roster. And it's not like you have to let those players go. You have to risk losing them through waivers, and if they clear waivers, then you can bring them back. Those players don't have to clear through waivers any longer. In the past, if you put a player on IR, they would be done for the year. And starting on Monday, teams across the league could designate up to 2 players who go on short-term IR, and those players don't impact your 53-man roster. Pretty much to summarize all of this, this is a new rule that gives teams roster-building flexibility, and you know that Howie Roseman is going to use this at his disposal and flex his muscle. So for example here, wide receiver Ainias Smith, 5th-round pick out of Texas A&M in the 2024 draft. We talked about this news last night. He's undergoing an MRI on his ankle and his hamstring. Philadelphia could place him on short-term IR. He doesn't count against the 53-man roster, and then Philadelphia would be able to keep another wide receiver, whether it be Paris Campbell. They've let go of John Ross. They could look at a player like Terrence Marshall, a former second-round pick who was let go by Carolina. They could sign him to add to the receiver core. Other players who fit the billing here, Ainias Smith, Sidney Brown, who's still coming off that torn ACL. If Philadelphia is confident that he's going to miss a decent amount of time, well, he can go on short-term IR, and he doesn't count against the 53. And as we know, Philadelphia has some question marks at that safety spot. And then how about a player like Tyler Steen? He's dealt with back-to-back ankle injuries. Mekhi Becton beat him out to be this team's week 1 starting right guard. If he's not ready and you want that roster flexibility of having another offensive lineman, you could go about it in that fashion. Here's the breakdown from the competition committee. To permit each club to place a maximum of 2 players who are placed on an applicable reserve list on the business day of the final roster reduction to be designated for return. Such players will immediately count as 2 of the club's total designations. So there's that new NFL rule that could impact Philadelphia, and it's always great for Howie Roseman to have roster building optionality. Coming up next here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Eagles roster cuts up to this point. They have been busy as compared to some other teams across the league. And is the book out on how to stop and fluster Jalen Hurts? Stay tuned for all of that. But first, let's cue up our sponsor for today's show. That is Game Time. This weekend, as the final break really before the start of the NFL season, I am going to Las Vegas. I'm going to check out LSU against USC, a really good top 25 matchup between 2 great college football brands and teams. And how did I get my tickets? The Game Time app. Best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. Prices drop as the event gets closer. I waited up until yesterday to get my tickets. I already booked the flights, but I waited and waited and waited, and I was able to save a lot of money. And then I plugged in that code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, and I was able to get an additional $20 off. Terms apply, first purchase only. Game Time specializing in last-minute tickets and flash deals. You see the view from your seats before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And you get the lowest price guarantee. It's awesome for me that I can save some cheddar because now I can throw that down on the roulette table or the blackjack table. You see what I'm saying here? If you want to go to an Eagles game this year, Packers-Eagles tickets in Brazil available if you want to travel internationally, or for the home opener at Lincoln Financial Field against the Atlanta Falcons in prime time. Eagles home games, Eagles road games. And for instance, you see that view from your seat right here. So once you get to the stadium, you know what to expect. Bryce Harper walk-off last night against the Houston Astros. What a game that was at Citizens Bank Park. Had a couple of buddies there. They used the code CHATSPORTS to save $20 off. So download the app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS for that discount. What time is it? Game time. Get in the game with Game Time. As for those Eagles roster cuts, let's run through all of the roster moves that Philadelphia's made up to this point. Philadelphia letting go of these following players here. Tight end EJ Jenkins had a really good camp, so I think that Philadelphia might only go with 2 tight ends on that 53. Could be Dallas Goedert and Greg Calcaterra. That's it. I thought Jenkins had an opportunity to make this Eagles 53, but maybe the Eagles will bring him back to the practice squad. John Ross, off injured throughout his career, suffered a concussion in that Week 2 preseason game against the New England Patriots. He has been cut by Philadelphia. Same can be said for running back Lew Nichols. I think Philadelphia's only going to go with 3 RBs on the 53. Offensive lineman Jason Poe, who has center and guard flexibility. Cornerback Shon Stephens, who played at Ferris State, is the cousin of Joey Porter Jr. and the nephew of Joey Porter Sr. I wouldn't mind seeing him come back to the practice squad as a developmental corner. Quarterback Will Grier, we knew that was coming. Outside linebacker Julian Okwara, I thought that he had a really good final preseason finale against Minnesota, able to get to the quarterback. Cornerback Parry Nickerson, tight end Kevin Foelsch, safety Andre Sam, according to his agent. Eagles would like to bring him back to the taxi squad. Tight end Tarron Jackson, wide receiver Austin Watkins, wide receiver Griffin Hebert, and offensive lineman Max Scharping, a former second-round pick. The Eagles a little bit light with their offensive line depth. Max Scharping not going to be a part of their initial 53-man roster. Of note, as it pertains to the tight end position, tight end Jack Stoll was released by the New York Giants. He had been with Philadelphia over the last couple of years. When the Eagles go with those 2 tight end sets, it was Dallas Goedert, Jack Stoll on the field. Stoll doesn't really offer much as far as being a pass catcher, but is a trusted blocker who Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman like. Maybe Stoll makes his return to Philadelphia. With all of those moves, as teams have to cut their rosters from 90 players to 53, Philadelphia, as of this recording, and these roster moves are going to transpire all throughout the day, they now have 22 moves to make before 4 p.m. Eastern to get the team down to 53 players. Let's round out with this. Is the book out on how to stop Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts? The Athletic released their quarterback tiers thanks to Mike Sando, who always does a great job with putting together his quarterback tiers and reaching out to coaches and executives. And Jalen Hurts was ranked as the 11th best quarterback on that list. Some very interesting takeaways from this article in The Athletic. So I want to share the screen and let's react to all of this together. Hurts slipped 5 spots after failing to sustain the momentum from his 2022 Super Bowl season. By the way, there's only one quarterback in the elite tier. It's Patrick Mahomes. So he's in a company by his lonesome. Hurts played so well the previous year. I am giving him a mulligan with some of the things they had going on offensively. A coach who placed Hurts in Tier 2 said, I do not think that he was bad necessarily. Fair points with the bad coaching last year. Some voters think Hurts will struggle to recapture the success he enjoyed when Shane Steichen was his offensive coordinator. One have jokingly called him a Tier 3 lock without the tush push. Look, the tush push certainly is a Jalen Hurts play. The Eagles had more than a 90% success rate last year with Hurts running that play. He's an automatic 1, 2, 3 yards. When the Eagles tried to run that play in the preseason with Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKee, they really struggled to pick up first down conversion. So I actually think that Hurts should be applauded for how dominant he is with that play. If they can't run the ball, Hurts is not effective, a defensive coordinator said. He can't handle pure pass. When he got hurt and he became immobile, they had to throw the ball. He showed what he was. I think they might have paid a guy that they are going to have a really good team around to win games. I still think he's a 2, another defensive coordinator said. His makeup, unbelievable competitor. This is a dude who Tua beats him out in college at Alabama. He goes somewhere else at Oklahoma, leads that team to the college football playoff. He is going to come up short quarterback talent-wise in terms of his accuracy and whatever, but all his other shit elevates him to a 2, and that's tier 2, not QB2, by the way. While Saquon Barkley's addition signaled an organizational commitment to the ground game, voters see new coordinator Kellen Moore as more pass-oriented in nature. Jalen Hurts this training camp passed all tests with flying colors. He was decisive. He stood strong in the pocket. He knew where he was going with the ball. He had total command of the offense. As we know, he went more than 300 pass attempts without throwing a pick. So from everybody who watched Eagles training camp, obviously some of these other coaches did not. They said that Jalen Hurts was just balling. And then lastly is the book out on Hurts. Quote, the word is out there. If you run 0 blitz against Hurts, that's pretty much just sending the house, or show 0 and you back everyone out, he will panic, a defensive coach said. That has to change. They lose Jason Kelce, who handled the protections, basically did everything, and you bring in a coordinator who likes to drop back. It will be interesting. Now, in training camp, Vic Fangio blitzed Jalen Hurts a lot. The Eagles did struggle with some of those blitzes. Jalen Hurts last year, whether teams sent the 0 blitz or they showed the 0 blitz and they backed off, Hurts struggled against those looks. I think that was more of the Eagles' offense being vanilla, mundane, predictable, not having safety valves, hot routes, or answers for the blitz. Shoot, the Eagles didn't run any pre-snap motion, and they barely ran any crossers, and they ignored the middle area of the field. So I think that Kellen Moore understands that. He's made the necessary adjustments, and that in turn is going to lead to Jalen Hurts playing better. We will certainly see this year. Could be a make or break year for Hurts. I think he personally has a bounce back year, and once again, he is really good because this team is too good for him not to have great production. So let's leave you with this. Jalen Hurts is a top blank quarterback going into 2024. Those coaches thinking he's a tier 2 guy. I think he's more in that tier 2.